Good boy, Flowey crooned. You did much better than I expected. Several of his leaves were bruised and wilting, and a deep gash in his main stem oozed sap. Yes, Papyrus had managed to get a few good hits in. He'd worked his favorite toy to exhaustion, sending the skeleton to the ground over and over until, hours after they'd started, Papyrus simply couldn't get up again. That didn't mean he'd stopped fighting. Even now, Flowey had to restrain him, vines wrapping around his limbs to hold him snug against the ground. While Papyrus bucked and struggled in his grip, Flowey admired the aftermath of their match. Great chunks of permafrost and ice littered the hilltop, churned up and scattered where Papyrus's attacks had ripped furrows into the frozen earth. It had been enjoyable to see, well worth the injuries. Papyrus had even tricked him into a few blue attacks. He caught the flash of excitement and pride that chased across the skeleton's features each time an attack got through. I'm still sensing some hesitation, Flowey said, bearing down a little harder to stop Papyrus's desperate thrashing. But I think you've made some real progress, don't you? Friend, he said, when Papyrus failed to get the hint. We're done for tonight, so you can stop fighting me now. That, along with a final warning squeeze, got the message across. Papyrus stilled. There we go! Flowey drooped his face down closer to his friends. See, as long as you keep pleasing me like this, you'll be perfectly safe, Papyrus. He took in the cracks and scrapes covering Papyrus's frame. Boy, you got a little banged up, huh? Let me take care of that for you. Papyrus tried and failed to wriggle away from the vine extending towards him. Flowey didn't use healing magic often, but it was more than up to the task of mending the relatively minor wounds he'd caused. Boop! Flowey touched the vine lightly to the tip of Papyrus's nasal bone. In seconds, the scrapes vanished and the cracks filled. All better. Papyrus was unfailingly polite, so when he didn't say thank you, Flowey chalked it up to fatigue. That had been quite a workout, even for a monster in such good condition. Now, he said, I know you train with Undyne, and you practice 3 hours a day like a good boy. I'd like us to keep having this special practice a few times a week, just to give you the edge you need. Sound good? Papyrus nodded weakly. He turned his head away, hiding his face against his shoulder. Flowey craned his stem to bring his face back into Papyrus's view. You want to be in the Royal Guard, don't you? Gently, he tipped Papyrus's chin up with a vine, forcing him to meet Flowey's stare. Papyrus stiffened, but he didn't fight against Flowey's grip. He was learning fast. Of course you do. Flowey smiled and pulled back, loosening his vines. As soon as he was free, Papyrus scrambled to his feet. He didn't bolt. That was pleasing. It was a sign that there was something here for Flowey to work with. Papyrus watched, wary, alert, as Flowey looped a coil of vines around his shoulders. He flinched when Flowey leaned against him, but he didn't try to fight or run away. He was being quiet too. That might have been his most impressive accomplishment of the night. This was encouraging. I don't want you to be afraid of me, Papyrus. Now that Flowey had let his face close back up, Papyrus didn't seem quite as averse to looking at him. There was suspicion and fear in the skeleton's face that he'd never seen before, but that was a good thing. That was exactly what he wanted, to make the naive Doosefus wake up to reality. Seeing you succeed and get what you want would make me happy, because I'm your friend. Isn't that right? Yes. From here on out, just remember that I'm doing all this because you're my cool and great friend, okay? Yes. And you're gonna be even cooler and greater with my help. Yes. Flowey giggled. Papyrus, are you just agreeing with me so I'll let you go? Papyrus cringed and sputtered for a few seconds to spit out a lie. His gaze darted around, trying to find the answer Flowey wanted. Yes. You're so honest. I've always liked that about you. It's okay, friend, Flowey said, giving Papyrus a playful nudge. I know this is a lot to get your head around, and you're not used to thinking big thoughts. Why don't you go home and rest, huh? You earned it, champ. With that, Flowey let him go. Sinking back into the ground was the work of a moment, and he was right back to being a cute little flower. Papyrus stared at him for a moment, fists clenching and unclenching, seemingly afraid to turn around. That, Flowey thought, was very reasonable. Finally, Papyrus turned to go, stumbling and shaky. After a few paces, Flowey called after him. Hey, Papyrus? The skeleton stopped, looking back over his shoulder. Remember that you're keeping my secret. Flowey winked. If you blab, I'll have to tear you up into itty-bitty pieces, and I'll do the same thing to anyone you tell. Got it? After a long hesitation, Papyrus nodded. I got it. Good. Well, nighty-night, Flowey said, and he pulled himself fully underground. It had been a productive night. He had a good feeling about this run. This was going to be fun.